Welcome everybody to What the Tech, episode 100, our 100th episode here for What the Tech. It's also our CES 2012 special. I'm Andrew Zarian from a nearly redesigned studio, and I'm joined by Paul Thurrott, as I am each and every week. How you doing, Paul?
Good.
How was the week off from shows?
Well, it's not like I took everything else off, so it was still fairly busy. But
fairly busy.
Good to be back.
And today is one of the busiest days in technology. It's CES, a Consumer Electronics Show, and we're going to be covering some of the stuff that's been unveiled today and yesterday, and actually 3 days before the show, because that's what everybody does now. They send the press releases out a little early. But before we begin, I want to remind everybody, if you are watching us on any number of our providers, Stickam, Ustream, Justin TV, Stitcher Audio, you could watch our show in a higher resolution. And, of course, you could join the chat room if you go to gfqlive.tv. If you're in the chat, you could hit menu, change your nickname, because we actually use you guys as a source for material here, because I'm very unprepared for What the Tech. Even though we have 15 pages of notes, I'm extremely unprepared.
We just show up.
We just show up. Yeah, that's it. I just paint the walls Thurrott blue, and I just show up. So yesterday, I guess we'll dive in because there's a lot to talk about. Yesterday was the big Microsoft event. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't call it a keynote or an unveiling. It's an event. I mean, they had people singing. They had Ryan Seacrest looking interested.
Yeah. Looking interested?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, he looked a little interested for about 5 minutes. Yeah. He was thinking about what's going to happen on the next season of Kardashians, I'm sure.
He made a funny Metro joke. I mean,
did he?
Yes. He alluded to his metrosexualness and said, is that why you invited me?
That's actually really funny. I turned it on. You were doing a coverage on Twit with Mary Jo, and I turned it on. Mm-hmm. It was late, actually. And I was setting up here, and I turned it on, and I saw the Muppets, and I didn't really understand what was happening. And your reaction was enough for me.
There's no doubt I was doing something like, "Oh, kill me."
You did the Paul Thurrott, "Oh boy,"
right?
And you were just looking at it, and you go, "Oh boy."
The list of things I don't like would probably fill a book, and maybe someday that book should be written. But one of the many things, is those overly emotive child actresses or actors, the little kids who are like a little too loud when they say things, a little too dynamic, a little too worldly.
They've been using them. They've been using them for those Connect stuff, right? The demos that they've been doing.
Well, it was just this kid, just the kid they had on stage. I just want, I just can't stand stuff like that. It was awful.
So did we learn anything? I mean, was there anything big other than Connect for PC? Because it seemed very uneventful. I would say that,
honestly, you need to. I mean, I was saying this to Mary Jo Foley earlier today. We need to keep in perspective the fact that we are paying attention. So we know what's going on in the industry, and we know that they didn't announce anything new about Windows 8 at all. They didn't announce anything new about Windows Phone at all. Everything they discussed about those two products had previously been announced. Some of it just hours before. I mean, to be fair. So AT&T and not Samsung, Nokia both had press conferences earlier in the day. So all of their Windows Phone revelations had come previous. So the only truly new information was about the Xbox 360 and the Kinect.
But Microsoft is known to have a uneventful thing at CES every year. I mean, last year, do you remember last year's? Yeah. I mean, they went on there with all those HP slates that didn't end up being anything.
I do not remember last year's, and I say that like it was a kidnapping and I'm trying to forget it. I actually do not remember. These things all wash together for me. They are a giant mountain of sameness. There's a certain style to these events. Microsoft puts on some good shows. I mean, I'm not trying to trash Microsoft.
No, sure. I mean, they had a big one for, I thought E3, they did a great job. They had a nice
and their
big
own shows
show
are great. Build was a great event. Events that they've had in the past, like Mix and TechEd, which is still running, and PDC and so forth, always excellent. They really do a good job. I've always felt with CES like they didn't belong there. Microsoft would also keynote Comdex. That made sense to me. It's business computing, or it was business computing.
I mean, in reality, I know a lot of people are kind of upset that they're not going to be at CES anymore, but they really don't need to be at CES. I mean, Apple's not there, and Apple never has needed to be there.
It highlights how painfully wrong they are for that show.
Yeah.
That's all it does. All you have to do is pay 5 seconds of attention to any gadget blog and see all of the stupid junk that they're talking about. Look, here's a blog post about a pair of headphones.
Turtle Beach.
Here's yet another TV set.
Turtle Beach has a great wireless headset, by the way. They're introing the XP400.
Okay. So look, but that's what CES is.
Yeah.
It literally is 1,000,001 gadgets.
Sure, and a couple gems.
Absolutely. And it's just no Microsoft. That's not where Microsoft is. Microsoft is not putting out earbud headphones and car adapters and, well, they make sync, obviously. But you know what I'm saying? They're not. They're a big company. They do big things.
How did Ballmer do? Because I miss Ballmer up there.
He was fine. I talked about this with some people about whether this was good Ballmer, bad Ballmer, whatever. I thought he was good. I like Ballmer when he's at his blusty. Blusty, is that a word?
Sure.
Blustery.
If you want it to be.
Best. Blusty. It's kind of
anything could be a word, Paul.
And he was a little bit of that. And I think it was an interesting contrast with Ryan Seacrest because it was almost a back and forth between the two of them. And his personality came out. I think that's the Steve Ballmer people want to see, the big personality.
Someone in our chat room said Ballmer was weird as always.
Okay.
So that explains it.
I like Ballmer. I mean, again, is he the right guy to run Microsoft is a debate we could have, but I think he's a good guy, and he's certainly the most passionate person.
Well, he's been running it for about a decade now, so
yeah,
he's here to stay. But there were for me, it seemed like a lot of the stuff going on was concentrating towards netbooks, of course, but to me the biggest thing out of CES so far from what we've seen, and I don't think we're going to get a big and this is it, another big announcement, was the fact that a lot of these TV manufacturers like Samsung, they're putting pretty fast processors in these TVs.
Yeah, and why not? Right?
And why not? And that's what we were discussing earlier a couple of weeks ago. I think that was on our wish list that we're going to start seeing TVs that have actually some sort of horsepower behind them.
I keep coming back to the same thing. You and I, it's funny, have spent a lot of time dumping on Google TV, and I keep thinking, how weird would it be? And it's very possible that Google TV could end up being a huge success story. And the way it could happen is by them integrating into all of the major TV manufacturers.
Yeah, and that'll be it. I mean, that's kind of what they need to do. You're not going to get people to go and buy a set-top box, like Sony just put out another Blu-ray. With Google TV. I think those are extras. I think it could be there, but it shouldn't be their primary focus to distribute this format. I think being on the TV itself is a big thing.
It's very interesting.
Who did they team up with? Right now they have Vizio, right? That was the big announcement, that Vizio is going to be putting them on. LG, Sony, and I can't remember who else. There might have been another one.
I'm sure there are going to be a lot more. In fact, I suspect as this show goes on, that's where those announcements are going to be. They're going to be around that kind of stuff.
Yeah. But an interesting thing that they put out was, there were two things that I'm interested in. One we're never going to see, and the other one we'll see by the end of the year. Lenovo introduced the Idea TV. And this is a weird twist that we're seeing, that these computer manufacturers are entering into the TV market, and the TV market is entering into the computer market. It's this weird thing that's going on this year. But this TV is a 1080p TV. And it's running Android. It's not running Google TV. It's actually running Ice Cream Sandwich.
Right.
And it was pretty impressive.
This isn't the only product that Lenovo's making that's like this. They're coming out with a hybrid version of their ThinkPad X1 laptop that also can run Android. And the reason they're doing Android on the laptop is so that when you want to play digital media like movies or whatever on a plane, you do it in Android and it takes up a lot less battery, because it's less power hungry. And I guess depending on how you use it, it can dramatically increase the battery life of that device. And then I think on that note, remember back to that CES a couple of years ago where they showed off that hybrid laptop and then they never came out with it.
Sure.
That thing had some weird proprietary Android-like OS that I think was based on Linux, and that was the reason they got rid of it. Because I think they saw that the world was heading toward Android. And I think what we're seeing now is the fruit of that decision, that they're starting to integrate Android now into everything. And it's weird because they have an Android phone coming out in China and possibly later in the United States. And they all of a sudden and of course they also have an Android tablet. They have a ThinkPad tablet that's based on Android, and various IdeaPad tablets as well. So, Lenovo is known for ThinkPad, but their lineup is very quickly changing into one that is that heterogeneous future, Windows plus Android.
Yeah. Samsung announced their smart TV, which pretty much is a what we have now, I guess. We have smart TVs now, but on steroids, because it's running a quad-core Qualcomm CPU in that thing. To me, that's the biggest selling point, and that would have me that would actually force me to buy a TV. If I know that this TV could do everything I want it to do without having a hiccup here and there.
So what's running in there, or does that matter?
I think it's running its own. Let me see here. I think it's in the notes here. Samsung Smart TV. You can hook up your TV and connect it to the STB server. It will replicate a full user interface, including the ability to record 5 shows at once, pause, watch TV. I guess it's its own operating system. I'm sure it's Linux-based, whatever it is.
Samsung is an interesting company because, they've always made excellent monitors. I've got one actually over here for my 360. And the reason I use it on the Xbox is Microsoft always uses Samsung monitors for their Xbox demos. And when you see them in person, you think they always look great, So they make great TVs. They make laptops, right? PC laptops. They could be the number one smartphone maker this year.
Yeah, sure.
They may surpass Nokia.
No, they definitely can.
So, they're all over the place, and this is exactly what you were just talking about, how all these companies are kind of switching sides and doing both things and really mixing it up. Samsung it could emerge as a very important player in several markets.
I think this is what they had to do before they went into the whole 3D freak out of 2010. Everything went to 3D. This is a better selling point, especially to me, or to you too. I'm guessing, right? Would you? Does this kind of make you interested to buy a new TV if you know that it has a fast CPU? You could do your web browsing on it. You could pop up all your internet shows, all your podcasts.
I want a platform though, and I want something that runs the services that make the most sense for me, which is Netflix and whatever else. Amazon would be great, that kind of stuff. We're never going to see Apple Apple's services on anything other than Apple, although that would be fantastic. But the problem with the Apple TV is that it's an extra box and it doesn't have those other services. It has Netflix, but it doesn't have a lot of the services I want.
They're also saying that the Qualcomm chip is going to be used by Vizio, Sony, and LG. So it seems like probably.
And Sony, by the way, is a company that everyone knows what Sony is, but they're switching over their Walkman line of products to Android, which makes a lot of sense.
A lot of sense. It kind of competes with an iPod Touch now. You can
kind of just see how the whole thing is coming together across the board.
Well, it's silly to have your own platform like what Sony's been doing. It's kind of dumbed down. It's not as intelligent as you could make it with Android. You don't have apps, and if you have these Walkmans, you kind of could compete with an iPod Touch to some extent. You're not gonna gain a huge chunk of market share, but you can potentially save somewhat of your business because nobody's buying a Sony device anymore. Everybody's buying an iPod or an iPod Touch.
Yep.
Vizio, as I said, Vizio is going to be running Google TV on there.
And that makes sense because we talked, the one I have has Yahoo widgets. Right. Yahoo widgets not a selling point.
One thing no, it's not. No. One thing that I've noticed, Paul, with the new update for Google TV, I can't watch any Flash-based video anymore.
It's fascinating that you know that because I have never used it.
I use it all the time. I use it all the time to watch certain.
Does your wife want a second Google TV?
No, I think one is enough. Okay. One that doesn't work is enough. Okay. I was checking out our new feed because we upped the video quality and we did some lighting changes, and I pulled up our website to see how it'll look on the Google TV, in big screen. It just kept crashing. It just kept crashing, and it was jittery. It would not work, but the previous version of Google TV worked perfectly fine. And I'm curious to know why that happened and why it's broken. I'm sure that it requires a little bit more horsepower to run Honeycomb over Gingerbread, I guess it was running. So maybe that's why. But It's amazing to me that they broke something that worked pretty decent. One of the only thing that worked was the browser, and they broke it. Amazing to me.
Well, I mean, I think Google is going to do the right thing with Android and with the Chrome stuff and integrate all that stuff. And I think we're going to see Chrome, the web browser, appear on Android. And, it's just, this is growing pain stuff. They'll get that stuff there.
On the TV side, one interesting thing that I saw was something called Simple TV. Did you see that?
Yep. No.
It's a DVR box. It's $150, and it's capable of recording over-the-air HD programming alongside traditional DVR functions and pausing live TV. It kind of disconnects you from having to get a DVR or getting a TiVo when it's pretty cheap, $150.
I'm actually surprised no one's done this before, because one of the hidden tips, out there is over-the-air HD is available almost everywhere in this country.
Yeah, it looks great.
You just don't know it's there.
Yeah, it looks
and depending
great,
on how good of an antenna you have, you can get all kinds of channels. And every once in a while, I have an antenna and I connect it to a PC and just see what's out there. And where I am, I'd have to put something up on the roof and do something pretty sophisticated. But even from the little dorky antenna thing, I can get 7 or 8 channels, and it's like stunning. I mean, how crystal clear they are. They're beautiful HD quality. It's free. It's just free.
And it's free, yeah. One selling point to this is that it's supported with Roku, iPad, Boxy, and Google TV.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It's not bad at all.
I'm gonna have to look.
There's no built-in hard drive. Instead, it requires you to connect a USB drive for storage. But it's not bad. I mean, I think that's a great idea.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Who knows what'll happen with this?
This should be integrated into the next Roku,
Well, did you see the new Roku, the one that's a thumb drive?
Yeah, well, yeah, okay. Yes, I did. But
what do you think
that's
just
a new form factor. I mean,
but what do you think of that?
I think it's smart because you can easily add it to an existing TV if it has that port.
No cables.
The point of it. No cables, yeah. But whatever. It doesn't change the value proposition of the Roku box, right? It's still an extra thing, and it's something extra you have to deal with. But I certainly never foresaw that kind of thing. I mean, I think it's neat that they're doing it. It's one of those things you see and you're like, oh yeah, that actually makes plenty of sense.
I don't know. What do you think these TV changes are going to be a big deal this year? What do you think is going to happen to the TV market from what you've read and seen so far at CES?
Yeah. The 3D is going to continue, unfortunately, and they're going to try to do the stuff with 3D without the glasses.
Oh, it's going to be awful.
There's not that we can't escape it. They're desperate to give us something different that makes us upgrade before our existing TV dies, and that's just the nature of that market. But I like this connected TV stuff because this is really the big deal. Yahoo widgets is not something I would buy a TV for, but having used it, it actually works really well. And I know that Google TV would be even better. And so I think that stuff, I think having these options, it's a little complicated, but it is neat that in my own house, I can sit down in front of the TV. And we have whatever options are available through the Xbox 360, which is connected out there, the Apple TV, which has various services, the Roku, which has various services. There's all these, and then of course the actual TV itself, which has the Yahoo widgets with those services and the cable box. So there's like this swirling mess of stuff, and the complexity is what kills it, but there's a lot of stuff. And I think that building this stuff into the TV is crucial and will help get that stuff out there. And I think Google is very smart to push Google TV in this fashion, because just 2 months ago, it seemed like the biggest dog destined for the worst possible death.
Yeah.
And now I'm thinking it's going to do pretty well.
Yeah, it might do. We'll see by the end of the year, but it might do phenomenal.
Yeah.
On a side note, Paul, have you gotten your update for your FiOS for the TV, the new interface that they have?
No.
I got it today.
Okay. It's funny you say that. No, I have not.
I got it. It's totally different. They changed everything.
Is that good or bad?
Now, I have no idea because it broke my cable box.
Of course it did. See, my cable box is like held together with like spit and baling wire, and I know that any change to this thing will probably do that exact thing. It will just destroy it. I'm actually kind of nervous about this. Our box slows down. Sometimes we turn on the TV and like speech is stuttering. I just yank the plug out and
But see, isn't this, it comes full circle. Isn't this kind of the issue that everybody has, and adding like these super TVs would kind of eliminate that, right? If
Oh,
Samsung were to release a
it's like
Verizon
this is
TV,
like the Apollo moon mission level of technology. It's like it's like this Motorola set-top box from the 1970s. I desperately need this thing to go away.
I
I don't want
believe
to replace it with other stuff, right? That's the problem.
I
I want
believe
nothing.
Samsung is the one that now integrates Dish and or DirecTV. I think it was Dish in their TVs, so you don't need a set-top box from Dish.
That's yeah. I mean, yeah. I understand why someone would want that. I really do.
Yeah. Another big TV story, as I'm reading right now, are the super OLED screens
Yeah.
for the TVs.
Right.
It's very expensive, and we'll see probably next year. We'll see it being kind of like this affordable thing. That's I guess the next thing in TVs are these super OLED screens.
Well, anyone who's used one knows they're beautiful.
But on a
They're
big
usually
scale,
like 4 inches big.
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But yeah, they're awesome.
Samsung is rolling out 55-inch super OLED screens. While
I think they're particularly good for movie playback, that kind of thing. So it would make sense that this would be nice for a TV.
Yeah. The big story now for me, especially, and you tell me what the big story is for you, and it's tablets again. And I didn't think I would say this, but it seems like this is going to be the year where we're going to start seeing affordable tablets that are going to really compete with the iPad. We're seeing ViewSonic releasing $180 or $169 tablet. We're seeing Lenovo releasing another $250 tablet. We've seen, I think it was NVIDIA and whatever the partner was. I forgot who it was at this point. I think I have it in the notes. They're releasing another $200 tablets that are running Ice Cream Sandwich, and they're pretty decent, these tablets.
Yeah, I don't want to say something stupid like this is going to kill the iPad, but throwaway tablets are going to relegate the iPad to what happened to the Mac. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And I don't know why it took so long, but it was always going to happen, and now here it is. So I would add tablets plus Ultrabooks. I think these two things are the big trend. We know of at least 75 Ultrabooks that are coming out this year being announced at the show. There are going to be more than that. They're very exciting devices. They serve different markets, but these tablet things are going to be just silly cheap finally, and running a modern, excellent version of Android for a change. I think it's going to make a big difference.
You think this is going to change what's going on? I mean, I'm looking here. There's one that's
it gets messy after this, right? It becomes like the smartphone market where
there's 1,000.
Apple has like the best-selling single model, but overall they're getting destroyed by this deluge of smaller, faster-moving companies building all these different machines, and it's going to happen in the tablet market too. You can see it right in front of you.
I'm looking here at what some of these tablets that they have, and some of them, I mean, of course, they're cheaper and they're a lot thicker, and you're missing a lot of things that you would get aesthetically.
It doesn't matter because most people can't afford an iPad. So people have been spending beyond their means to get one because it was the only game in town, or you could spend the same amount of money and get an Android tablet. So why would you get the second best? But when the second best costs 1/3 the price, that's when people buy.
Yeah, a friend of mine recently just got the Kindle Fire, and I have a Kindle Fire. My wife uses a Kindle Fire, and I don't necessarily think it's this great tablet, but and I say this along with everybody else. Well, you're comparing it to an iPhone experience and an iPad experience, I should say, and the iPad experience is 10 times, or 4 times the amount of the price. So yeah, of course, you kind of get what you pay for. You're paying $200 and you're getting something that's not as good as the thing that's $500. It kind of makes sense, right?
You could say the same thing about any product, a car, software, hardware, whatever it is. Most people will never use anything to the extent to which it can be used.
But see, we're not conditioned to think that way with computing for whatever reason.
No. Well, we are conditioned to save money. People look at an iPad and they think, oh my God, I really want that thing. And then they realize like, oh geez, I'm gonna have to spend like $650 to get a good one. And then they look at this Kindle Fire or any of these other $200 devices and they say, oh look, this thing costs 1/3 of that. I want this one. Or look, I get it that the iPad does all this extra stuff. I only need what the Kindle Fire does. My wife uses a Kindle Fire to read the newspaper every day. It's great for playing back content, music and movies and so forth. It does all that, ebooks and all that. It's great. In the same way that the Kindle Fire is enough for some people compared to the iPad, it's the same thing with the iPad, where the iPad is enough for some people compared to a PC, which also does more. Yet again, and can be more expensive, but actually typically is not. Which I think is the trick for the iPad. I think the problem, they're just priced incorrectly, and that's going to have to correct itself.
We're seeing a lot of these unknown names enter into the tablet world. Like I'm looking here, there's one company called Leader International.
Yep.
And they have a $179 tablet and a $299 tablet. They're running Android 4.0. The most expensive model, which is a $299, is running a 9.7-inch IPS display, 1 gigahertz Tegra 2 dual-core processor.
Yep.
I mean, for $200,
these companies serve one purpose. They're going to drive prices down everywhere else. So instead of buying an IPS display-based device from a company you've never heard of from China, Samsung's going to have to make one.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen.
I mean, in the end, it's those same components that you're getting. I don't think the brand really matters on these devices, really.
Yeah, no,
the processor
that absolutely
and the
could be the
display.
case, right? Because you're buying Android.
Yeah.
They'll have Android Market on it. You can get the Amazon App Store on there if you want that instead.
This is becoming
you're pretty much good to go.
Android has become Windows of this decade.
This is the central theme of the Android series I'm working on right now. That's absolutely.
It's really become Windows, where you have every single company in the world manufacturing these devices that are identical.
You know what though? This is not going to come out right. I don't mean it like this, but it's better than Windows. I'm going to do the air quote thing around that.
Why do you say that?
Because, well, there are actually a bunch of reasons. I don't want to blow away everything I'm about to write.
Okay, give me one.
I'll give you a few. It's free, right? Which means that the proliferation of devices based on this system can be that much greater because the barrier to entry is that much less. And the people that want to sell these things are not controlled by a company that has rules that you have to follow. The rules for Android are very lax. They can change the UI. They can make it look like something else. They can make it look like their own thing. They can do like what the Kindle Fire did. Android is so wild and wide open that Microsoft, if their phone fails, could come in, take Android, it's free, make something they call Windows Phone, but have it run Android apps because it's based on Android. It would look just like Windows Phone.
And
they could do whatever they wanted to it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I think we're going to start seeing that in the coming years. This might be the platform that everybody uses.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far afield. Obviously, there are downsides to this, too. Yeah. I'm just saying, that's why I put air quotes around it.
But I mean, Paul, look at this.
In ways that matter, Android is, successful for a reason, I think would be the way I should say.
Currently, if you go to a store and you could buy a $170 tablet, that's a realistic thing. You can buy it. And I know a lot of people that bought really low-end, cheap tablets for the holiday season. And they're awful. A relative of mine got a no-name Android tablet. It's running Android 2.3, I think it was. And the thing was so bad, you could barely use it. The display was awful. The touch didn't recognize. I mean, it was an awful experience. And they paid like $200. ViewSonic, which is a company that most people know of, they're putting out a tablet. This coming out first quarter, so within the next couple months. The thing is going to be doing 1080p video, HDMI out. It's going to have 4 gigs of memory, I guess. So it's going to be little, but it's still something. 1 gigahertz. It's
probably expandable, I would imagine.
Yeah. I'm assuming. That's internal. I haven't seen anything else on there. 1 gigahertz CPU, probably going to be a dual core, and it's $170.
Yeah.
Front-facing camera. $170, and you're getting something that works.
ViewSonic is known for making great displays.
Yeah. And by the way, it's going to run Ice Cream Sandwich.
Of course it is.
This is going to change.
Yes.
The way that this entire market is perceived, because we also have to remember Honeycomb was not made. The source code was not released until much later, so we didn't see too many Honeycomb's tablets come out this year. It was still with Android 2.0.
Now they kind of got it right, and now of course everyone can make these things, and of course they are.
Yeah.
The range of devices that can be based on this is scary, and it should be scary to Microsoft, who's trying to make something to compete with it. You can have the little tablets you're talking about, full-fledged tablets that connect to keyboards and our laptops, tablets that connect to wireless keyboards and wireless mice, and they're just like computers. Tablets that can blast images to your TV and have them play that way, like Apple does now with AirPlay and so forth. This stuff is all there.
Now, one question that I got for you, and I actually got the email, and I thought it would be appropriate for this show to ask you, is that with Windows 8, because Windows 8 is a major competitor. I mean, we know that it's going to be something that's not crap with the operating system. I mean, we know that there's certain type of there's certain things that we expect it to do, and we know that it'll do compared to buying, a Linux-based operating system and not really knowing. But do you think that the licensing fees are going to affect the pricing to the extent that it cannot compete at this level, at this lower-end pricing level?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know how they're going to price it. And, of course, there are these questions around the ARM-based versions, which are where the tablet stuff would fall. And presumably that stuff will be at least cheaper. Microsoft does not have a big history of giving away stuff for free. Obviously, there are exceptions to that. There are many reasons why Windows Phone has not taken off in the marketplace. One of them, surely, is the fact that they are charging OEMs to use it. So when you're well, actually Samsung does, of course, make Windows phones, but companies tend to put more resources and time and go to Android first because that stuff is free. And then the other stuff kicks in. They have the ability to change it in ways that is useful for those companies and allows them to differentiate their products. There was a scene on the stage the other night where they kind of panned across the phones. They all looked exactly the same.
Yeah.
They had some different icons on the screen, but it was the same exact layout.
But does Microsoft need to be on HTC and Samsung and Nokia? I mean Nokia, obviously, which we're going to talk about next. But do they need to be on on every platform like the Android model, or can they?
I would say
two
they
phones?
Do at least on enough of them. Right?
Okay. I mean, it works for the
there needs
iPhone,
to be an
really.
Alternative.
Yeah, but it's working for the iPhone. If you look at how the
no.
Apple's
Well,
model.
what I mean is, right now there are two main models for selling these things. There's Apple's and there's Google's, and Microsoft is trying to kind of take the best from both, and that's actually an interesting and viable approach, other than the other issues they've had. These guys need to all be there to keep each other honest, essentially. And by honest, I mean to keep them evolving. If Apple or Google were to dominate this market, innovation would slow and actually sometimes halt. We saw that with Microsoft in the PC industry. When they didn't have any competition, we got stuck with IE6 for 3 years before they decided to update it. So it's important that there be choice because it benefits you even if you don't choose the alternative.
Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense. Since we're talking about the phone, Nokia announced the Nokia 900, which is the Windows phone that we all want at this point.
Yep.
I love the fact that it's running a Carl Zeiss lens.
Yeah, that's always been their big strength. Although the Lumia 800, which is the one they shipped first to Europe and right now is only in Europe, I think, also has a Carl Zeiss optics, and apparently the camera's not that great. So I guess sometimes that can go south. But that's been one of Nokia's historic strengths, the quality of their optics. And I'm really hoping that this phone comes through. It has some stuff I've been begging for, like the ability to shoot widescreen shots. The screens we view our pictures on are widescreen. I went widescreen on my point-and-click camera 5 or 6 years ago, probably. And when you put them up on a TV set, they look beautiful.
Yeah, you know what? That is interesting. I never thought of it that because they record widescreen, but they don't shoot in widescreen. Why not?
No, it's 4:3. I have no idea. They all are. iPhones like that. All the Windows phones are like that. So it has that. It looks like it has good quality specs, but of course you have to really see, and we'll see. I hope that this phone has come. This is what I expected from Nokia when they first announced. I thought, okay, this is what I imagined. So,
but here's the weird thing: they just announced the 800. Why couldn't the 800 have this?
I believe that the 800 was the result of we need to get to market before the end of the year last year.
Oh, okay.
It was just we had to get there.
I mean, it's running a 1.
This is the kind of like the SUV plus version.
It's running a 1.4 gigahertz single core processor, which is better for battery life than a dual core. 512.
And Windows Phone doesn't take advantage of multiple cores, so there's no reason to go.
Yeah. A 512 megabyte of RAM. It has an 8 megapixel camera. LED flash. It's capable of doing 720p HD video recording, which you really don't need to do 1080p in reality.
No.
720p is perfectly fine for now. As well as a 1 megapixel front-facing camera. And it has the battery is pretty large. I mean, that's a good thing. And the design is phenomenal. I mean, it's a great-looking phone.
And it does LTE.
Yes,
which is actually a really big deal. So all of the LTE phones that were announced, actually they only announced 2. We knew about 3 of them, but only 2 were announced, are LTE and are based on AT&T.
I mean, it's a beautiful phone.
It is a beautiful phone. Yep.
And you know what's hysterical? Remember early on when they announced this partnership, you saw those specs come out for what the phone might look like. Like it was like an artist rendition, like some guy made them. It's exactly the same.
Well, it's based on the earlier N9 design, and I think there was an N8 before that or whatever.
Yeah.
But their final Symbian-based devices were kind of the early design look at that. So it's not a huge leap to get to what these device looks like. But I have not had a 900 in my hands, but I have had an 800 in my hands, and these things have I don't know what to call it. It's like a hand feel, however you want to say it. They fit perfectly. They're just great. They have a kind of a wraparound glass effect. There's a curved front to it. It's a really nice package. I mean, it's kind of it sounds lame as I'm saying it, but they just feel nice. Like I don't feel bad. Like I use a Samsung Focus S Windows phone. I just got this Samsung Galaxy, which is actually pretty heavy. They're made of plastic and they're fine. They have Gorilla Glass and all that stuff. I don't really think about the quality of it. They're fine. Actually, they've been very durable. But when you pick these Nokias up, they're not just fun. They're like really nice.
So someone
in our chat room
says that the Lumia 800 can do 16:9 stills at 7.1 megapixel, 8 megapixels 4:3.
Okay, that's cool. See, and actually that's always been my deal. Like I would take a setting on any phone camera that said we will chop off pixels to achieve 16:9. I don't want the pixels. I just want the picture to be that way.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Well,
that's
since you're talking about pixels, Paul, since we're on the subject of pixels, how does 16 megapixels sound to you?
How does 16 sound?
Yeah. The Titan 2, the HTC Titan 2 has a 16 megapixel camera.
Well, we all know that size doesn't matter when it comes to megapixels per se. So we'll see. It's more the quality of those megapixels that we're concerned with.
It's a nice looking phone.
It's fine. Yeah, I mean it's a little weird that they've already updated the Titan. The Titan just shipped in the U.S. in November. That's how soon it was. So 2 months later, they're announcing a replacement for that phone. That if I understand the changes, LTE support.
Yeah.
The battery is no longer removable like it was in the first Titan. Now it's sealed in. It's slightly bigger, so I think they're trying to achieve.
Yeah, 4.7. I think the Titan was 4.6.
And then what's the other? There's one other change.
The Snapdragon processors of 1.5 gigahertz Snapdragon S2 chip from Qualcomm.
So it's LTE. It's the battery. There was one other thing.
The camera, 16 megapixels.
Oh, I'm sorry. Of course, the camera.
Yeah.
Yes. It went from 8. Right. And actually, here's the thing. Until this week, the Windows Phone with the best camera is the original Titan. So there is a chance that camera in the Titan 2 will be better than the one in the Nokia. That's going to be the big comparison. Which of those takes the crown? Now, I would be tempted just to go with the Nokia for the widescreen thing.
Yeah,
I don't believe the Titan.
Listen, if you want to print out posters of the pictures that you've taken with your camera, I think this is a great camera to have. Great phone.
But I don't want to do that. See,
what do you mean, Paul?
I don't want paper to ever be part of the equation.
Don't we all print out billboards with our camera photos?
I like when I watch a TV show and someone views a website and then they have to print it out, so they can kind of view it further. I'm just going to take this over to the table and read it on the paper.
Yeah, it's always on like NCIS.
Yeah.
They have this crazy, I love that when they have this, like they're touching the screen in the air, and then they print this. They still use a printer to print it.
You got to, because it's not real until you print it.
Yeah. By the way, I have no printer
see pictures on my HD TV, and photos taken with a phone camera actually are fine. They look fine, and I think with these cameras, in these phones, probably going to be great.
So you got the new phone, right?
No, I don't have any of these new phones, and I've asked, and we'll see. But the Nokia 900, if I don't get a review copy of that, I'm just going to buy it. That one I'm going to get.
No. I'm saying you got the new Google phone. You got the Nexus.
Oh, I did. I'm sorry. Yes.
Because we didn't say it on the air.
Yeah.
Paul got his hands on a Nexus because you had to replace your Droid X.
Yep.
I'm going to tell you right now, off the bat, you're going to have a great experience for about 2 weeks with this because you're going from a Droid X to this. That's what I'm guessing.
Okay, but
you tell me.
I don't use this thing full time. This is not my phone.
What do you think of it?
Like, I'm not replacing my other phone.
Okay.
I'm sorry. It is replacing a Droid X,
but it's not your everyday.
But I
phone.
never really use the Droid X, so I don't really. This one I'm going to use more. It's never going to be my day-to-day phone. I need to get up to speed on Android, understand Android, write about Android. I'm going to write about Android a lot, so I'll be using it. But I can't imagine like leaving home and not bringing my other phone.
What do you think of it?
It's weird.
Okay.
I mean, the screen quality is beautiful. Looks nice. There's kind of a weird 3D effect going on to the UI, which I'm a little alarmed by.
Where?
In the home screen.
Okay.
In fact, I can't wait to turn off that 3D, the kind of animated effect that's occurring there. But there's a new theme, and I read about this. This is the theme that is going to be standardized. Like they're going to require. This is Google heading down that path toward making Android a little less wild and free. There's a new theme. I think was it called Flux or
I forgot what it is, but I know exactly what you mean. But I have it all turned off.
Yeah, it's a little too Star Trek for me.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm going to do, in fact, when we're done here, I'm going to go play with this thing. I'm going to look at the other ones and see what that looks like. But I picked this phone because it's the only one right now, right, that has ice cream sandwich built in. Plus, it's the Google phone, and I'm really looking for as pure a possible Google experience. It occurred to me because of Windows 8 that multi-screen navigation makes more sense when you go left-right than it does going up-down.
Mm-hmm.
And this phone in the apps screen, they go left-right now, not up-down. And it is much better than the old way of doing it.
You know what? I kind of like the up-down.
Oh no,
it took me a while to get used to it.
It may be that I'm used to it for some reason, that makes it okay. But I really do prefer this. But just looking through it, like I don't see a lot of crap around here. There's a Verizon backup assistant or whatever, and actually there's a Samsung app that I'll be getting rid of if I can. But but mostly it's the Google stuff, which is great. So look, I pinned it to my home page. Isn't that fantastic? I'm so happy.
What did you pin?
The stupid Samsung app that I want to get rid of. Instead of killing it, I've made it more prominent on the phone. It's an Android feature. But anyway, it's okay. I mean, I need to spend time with it. It's gonna take.
I mean, as far as if you compare to what the previous version was for the phone, totally different. From gingerbread to this, it's night and day.
It is absolutely night and day. Yeah.
I don't. You know what? One interesting thing we have not seen, and again, I was hoping we would see a USB 3.0 webcam. Nothing.
You're really stuck on this.
I am stuck on it. 2 years, nothing.
So this isn't in the notes, but one thing I wanted to point out to you is Thunderbolt is now being added to TVs. To PCs, which means that Thunderbolt is actually probably going to take off this year.
Well, it's going to take over for FireWire.
Yeah, and I would say for USB/eSATA for storage as well, possibly, right? Isn't Thunderbolt? Am I missing the point of Thunderbolt? It's a high-speed data connection.
Well, right now, yeah. Well, video too. Thunderbolt could do video.
Okay. So this could be an interesting solution for a lot of things, for laptop, like eliminating the need for laptop docks and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know that there isn't a USB 3 port that can charge devices, but if there is, I don't understand why USB 2 doesn't even exist anymore. And as far as webcams go, which you're just way too hung up on, by the way.
You think so? You think I have a problem?
No, I'm just kidding. Why wouldn't it be USB 3? I mean, why wouldn't you go with the best?
I'll tell you why I'm hung up on it. I have this shot is a Canon camera, and I paid $1,000 for this Canon.
Yep.
This shot is a Logitech camera, and I paid $50 for it.
Yep.
I mean, yes, this shot looks better than this, but not by a whole lot.
$1,000 better, yeah. Okay.
Not by a whole lot. I mean, 90% of the people have no clue.
The front shot is much crisper.
Much crisper, yeah. I mean, it's able to focus better. It has a larger sensor, of course. But for $50, like if you compare, like we were talking about, like the difference between a $200 tablet and a $400 tablet. Like, if you compare a $50 camera to a $1,000 camera, there's a huge difference.
This is the iPad conversation, but with a different product. Absolutely.
I mean, that's a big price change. But with USB 3.0, you'd be able to send more data.
You're suggesting that a USB 3 camera could be made that would offer that quality, but maybe for $200.
Yeah. Well, even $150. I think.
Yeah.
I think you.
Okay.
If you up the sensor and you do better, lens optics on it. You sell it for $199. It would be as good as this, in my opinion. You'd be able to do it.
I don't know how CES. Even when I go to CES, I pay attention to the Microsoft stuff. I walk around for a day, and that's the end of that. So it's possible that CES is broken down so that each day is different people, different types of companies, and maybe that stuff is coming.
I mean, Logitech announced. I think they announced a 1080p camera. I think it was Logitech. I forgot. I believe it was them, but it was still USB 2.0. I don't know if it's like now. But here's the thing. Now I'm thinking. Yeah, the C920. Thank you, Suncast, in our chat room. They announced the C920. It's generally for it does 1080p video streaming. You can do 1080p video.
Yeah.
I don't really care for that. Give me better standard resolution video, and I'll take that. I think there's a big conspiracy between the real camera manufacturers and the webcams. They're holding down
Awesome.
the webcams, and there's a huge payoff here somewhere.
Wow.
That's my theory on this. Paul, back to you.
We're always looking for reasons. Yeah, I don't know. I can't.
I want to remind our viewers, if you are watching on any number of our video partner providers like Ustream, Justin TV, Stickam, or you're listening on our audio feed, if you go to gfqlive.tv, you could participate in our wonderful chat room. There's about, how many people in there? About 60 people in our chat right now. And if you are in the chat, remember, you could change your nickname by clicking on menu and change nickname, and your nickname will be whatever you want it to be. You could write Andrea is hung up on webcams. You could do that. Well, here's one. Look, Flea 3, an ultra-compact USB 3.0 webcam.
Yeah, actually, it's funny you say it. I was just looking at that cube-looking thing.
Yeah, it's a cube-looking thing. I guarantee this thing will be awful. It'll be awful. I could almost guarantee you that. Let me see. Buy now. How much is this? Maybe I'll buy it now. There's two of them. There's the 1.3 megapixel color. Then there's the mono. What the hell is a mono and what the hell is color? What does that even mean? I guess we want color, right? Oh no, one is black. You know what it is?
2012.
I'll tell you what this is. They're using USB 3.0, but it's not like a high def USB 3.0. It's 3.2 megapixel. This thing is awful. Let's see. There's a little video here. Let's play this. Already I'm annoyed by it, by the way. There's no words. I quit. I'm done with it. It's awful. Why do they do that? But one thing that I haven't really seen this year at CES is a presence by Logitech. They really haven't done much so far, from what I've seen. Which I'm surprised, because isn't that who really benefits from something like this? Like these little tiny little knickknacks, and they display what they're going to put out. I mean, the TV manufacturers, of course, it's all about TVs, but in reality, this is who CES was for. It was for companies to come in and show what they're releasing next year, like little companies. Not saying Logitech is little, but you know what I mean by that.
Yeah, a huge component of CES is that kind of Asian small companies no one's ever heard of, but yeah, Logitech needs to be part of this, and I bet they are, actually. I mean,
Which
like
we
I
haven't
said,
seen yet.
there may be a different day for these people that they're doing their announcements, so they don't get lost in the the mess of day one. There's a lot of stuff today was PC based.
Yeah,
lots of Ultrabooks.
A lot of Ultrabooks
announced their Ultrabook today. So I think as we move through the week a little bit, that will change.
And HP announced an Ultrabook.
Yes. Oh no, everyone does. I mean, everyone has. I'm just saying, Dell didn't announce theirs until late today. So
the HP's, I think, was the Spectra, the NV14 Spectra. It's a 14-inch.
Yeah.
This looks really interesting. I like this one, actually.
Yeah, I wish HP would get past their need to emulate Apple's laptops a little too closely, but yeah,
Who do you think is going to be the big one this year with the
the big
Ultrabooks?
Ultrabook.
Yeah. Do you think there's going to be one that really is
No,
dominant, or do you think it's going to
going
spread?
to work out like the PC market does? There'll be a bunch of them.
But this is the laptop market now, right? This is taking over for all the laptops, in my opinion. I mean, the next year we're not going to see, an Ultrabook. We're going to see a laptop that's really slim.
Yeah, but I think for the short term, especially the thicker, heavier laptops are obviously less expensive to manufacture and sell, and there'll be that market for people who just need that kind of thing. They're still selling netbooks this year,
Yeah.
There'll always be the variety, but and Ultrabooks, for whatever it's worth, don't serve every need. They don't come with, although these, the port things are changing and so forth. You're not going to see Ultrabooks that necessarily dock into a docking station and work well in a home, on a big screen and with an external keyboard and all that stuff. So
yeah, I'm looking at the Dell now, by the way. I can see
yeah,
the Dell
it's
now.
okay. It looks fine.
Yeah, but again, it's to me. If I'm looking at this picture, to me, it's a MacBook Air. It's a MacBook Pro, in my opinion. It's not. I don't see it being really thin. It looks like a MacBook.
Yeah,
a MacBook Air with a Dell logo on it.
Well, but see, that's the thing. So obviously, in the early days, there's going to be a lot of Apple copying. That's what we do in the PC industry. But there are going to be unique things too. And one of the things I saw was a 15-inch Samsung Ultrabook. And I think I brought this up on the podcast before. I love the thought of a 15-inch ultra thin laptop, and Samsung makes really nice thin laptops. So, that's a possibility. There's going to be all kinds of stuff.
I think the pricing needs to be extremely competitive. I mean, okay, so this one is around $1,000 that I'm looking at here. The Dell.
Yeah, $999 is supposed to be
the entry level
price. Yeah, $999 or less. I mean, I think we're going to get there.
Yeah, $1,000 by the end of the year, we'll start seeing better, stuff inside, and it'll be pretty affordable. I don't know if necessarily this is going to be the big thing from this year. Do you think? Because we got it last year, but it was lackluster until the fourth quarter. Really, we didn't really see much.
It's kind of like a Knicks game.
It is. Everything is off until the fourth, and then they drop, and then you'll see Spike Lee standing up.
I don't know where that came from.
It's all right. I know what that was about. That was an Indiana Pacers joke, right? That was a Reggie Miller kicking us with 30 seconds left, scoring 89 points in 30 seconds.
Right.
Patrick Ewing falls, breaks his knee. It's all over.
Wow.
I don't know. I'm getting flashbacks. It's awful.
Reggie Miller with the choke sign.
Yeah. I don't know. These Ultrabooks, they look great, first of all. I'm looking here.
Yeah, they do. That's the thing. I mean, they're beautiful. They're obvious. That's the thing. When you see the MacBook Air, you go, wow, that thing's really nice. And then you realize, like, everyone's going to make one of these things, and they did. And we'll see some innovation. But the point here is they're thin and light, and they get great battery life, and they're going to sell by the bucket loads. It's going to be a big deal.
Kodak announced, by the way, that they're restructuring.
Kodak still exists, huh? Kodak used to be, this is years ago, but I remember walking through a Kodak booth at CES, and they were still a big deal back then. And I remember thinking, this is a company that is not making the transition from paper to digital very well at all.
It must have been a totally different place, 10 years ago.
Well, Polaroid doesn't really exist anymore. I mean, somebody owns the name, and they license it out, and people make products that say Polaroid on it. And I'm sure to some segment of the population, they think they're buying into some heritage that doesn't even exist. But same thing, Polaroid was a company that innovated in the 1970s and then just got caught up in not innovating anymore. And I think Kodak, same thing, unfortunately.
If you were to pick one product so far that you've seen that you say you could say that stood out so far, what would it be from CES?
Oh, I don't know if I could pick one. I mean,
I don't have that this year. I mean, to me, 2 years ago, I would have said that Lenovo really stood out, and everybody decided that was the winner. But this year, I can't really say anything.
I think it's tablets and Ultrabooks, not any one, but those. I think those things are great. I saw a watch that monitors your health, and it did all kinds of different things: heart rate, blood pressure, all kinds of stuff. I think stuff like that is very cool. We're going to see a lot of that stuff. There's a Wi-Fi enabled scale that just came out, which is a very cool idea, which are kind of off the wall. There's the Vizio PCs are beautiful. If you haven't seen them, go check these things out. They have an all-in-one PC, very thin. They're doing Ultrabooks. Those things are beautiful. This is stuff I don't care about. All the headphones, all the card junk. Virtually every post on Engadget or Gizmodo is completely uninteresting to me. But there's, every year, it's going to be stuff.
Yeah, so far to me, it's that DVR.
DVR, yeah, that's I'm
talking about one gadget that kind of stands out from the rest of them. That would kind of be it for me. That's the only one really that.
Yeah, I can't really pick. I don't know. The one I'm most excited about personally is that Nokia Lumia 900. Not that that's like a shocker or some kind of surprise.
But we have a couple days, so who knows what'll happen tomorrow? That's another thing.
Yeah, there you go.
But we've seen everything that we could imagine. Well, look, Blue has a nice little mic that they're putting out. See, that's what it's for. That's what CES is for. This is an interesting article that CNET wrote. Is Intel Ultrabook in danger of being oversold? I think that, but this is the market. This is where it's going. They said, I think there was an article that said Intel is spending the most for ads since 2003 to push the Ultrabooks.
Yeah. Well, they had a nice market with that netbook for a while. And then what is starting to put the netbook to the side of these tablets, and the tablets are not running Intel chips. And what they need is some kind of volume product that's going to take over for that netbook market while they try to get inroads into the tablet market. And I think the Ultrabook is that. I think this is their chance to really rejuvenate the PC market, because right now, they sell, it's not like they're not selling well. They're going to sell almost 400 million of these things last year and then again this year. But they want that little bump. They got a nice bump with the netbook. So I think that explains their marketing.
Yeah, interesting stuff, Paul. Interesting stuff. I'm curious to see what's going to happen tomorrow. I'm really hoping there's something, because this does not seem to be a very memorable
this is where
CES.
I switch off. So I'm not really. I can't really help you there. I don't even know.
I don't know. But
if I was in Vegas, tomorrow would have been the day. Well, tomorrow would have been the day I just roamed the place, and then I would have gone home the next day or that night, overnight. That would have been it.
Yeah, it's one day, right? You just see everything for that one day, and then you leave.
It's an explosion of sights and sounds and smells.
And the AVNs are there, so they're not there this week. So why does anybody need to stick around, right?
I think you've found my secret reason for not going.
See, that's why. Now we know why Paul didn't go this year. The AVNs are not this week.
Okay, I spend most of my time at the other convention, but the point is, I'm not there.
Before we wrap up, I did want to touch on one little thing. I was surprised at the lack of information about Windows 8.
Yeah.
I thought we would get that store. They would at least show what it's going to look like and do. And
they showed the store very briefly. But they didn't really show any new information, and I think we were all feeling bad about that. It's not that surprising given how Steven Sinofsky operates, but all I can say is, the beta release is happening in late February. I don't know if they're going to have an event. I find it hard to believe they wouldn't have an event for the beta. So I hope to hear about that soon, because I got a lot of travel already happening in February, but obviously that's going to be a big deal. So that's coming soon. And when Microsoft said they were not going to come back to CES, one of the things they said was, look, this show doesn't happen at a good time for us. We have our own milestones for products. And in this case, their own milestone for Windows 8 was February, not January. And everyone, including me, was saying they'll release the beta at CES. They always do that. And they were saying, yeah, we can't do that. So
yeah, so
they'll do it on their own schedule.
Of course, there's going to be more information in the coming days, and we'll be able to find out more about what's happening at CES and everything else that's going on. Paul, it is time to wrap up today. You've had a very long 2 days.
I have. I thought I was going to sleep till noon today because I was up late and worked all day yesterday. And I snapped out of bed at 7 o'clock in the morning this morning, like a possessed animal,
Yeah.
and immediately opened my laptop at the kitchen table and got to work. So it's just been it's like I'm there. I'm not there. My feet feel fine, which is nice. But yeah, it's busy.
Actually, you know what else I saw? The ultra wide screen TVs. Big gimmick. Nobody will buy it. Yeah, they're super wide. They're super wide. Vizio's making one.
I saw that they were calling these higher than high def screens ultra def.
Okay, this is a WFHD. It's called cinema mode. It's 21 by 9.
Yeah, it's like cinema. Have you ever seen, it seems like in the olden days, if you will, some of the widescreen movies of the past were really, really wide.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a good example, but Once Upon a Time in the West, I think, is an example of that, where it seems to have an almost panoramic aspect ratio.
Yeah, cinema. Maybe it's like cinema mode. That's.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is.
But movies today are not made like that. I mean, if you watch a movie like Avatar,
no, you're gonna have black bars all the time.
Avatar's not super widescreen. I mean, it's widescreen, but it's it's just normal aspect ratio.
You know what it probably does? When you're watching TV, rather than having a black bar, it shifts everything to one side and puts, I guess, whatever, like the widgets on the side. But who wants to watch TV like that?
My problem with that Microsoft demo last night with the Sesame Street thing that you were talking about, other than the little girl who I thought was possessed, was that, as Steve Jobs actually once said, people go to TV when they want to shut down. I don't want to interact when I'm watching TV. I don't want stuff going on over on the side, You just want to turn off your mind and watch a show. So the notion that I could have like two things going on the TV, or a TV show and stuff, that's not what I'm looking for. Interesting
stuff, though, Paul. Interesting. I thank you for coming and doing another show. You've had a very busy 2 days, and we're going to be trying to keep up with what's happening here at the GFK Network, where we were off for about a week and a half, about a week and a couple days, actually. But we're starting to get everything going again. We're still touching up the new studio, and we're redoing some of the lighting. So in the coming days and weeks, you're going to start seeing some more changes. But if you want to follow Paul on Twitter, he's at The Rot. Not Paul Thurrott, but at The Rot. His Twitter. My Twitter is Andrew Zarian. You can check out Paul's latest blogs at winsupersite.com. Paul, what's the latest post on there?
That's a good question.
Microsoft Windows Phone strategy for 2012.
There you go.
It's the latest post. By the way, you said something about using Hotmail exclusively now?
I'm using Hotmail for personal mail, and I have an Exchange account at work. There's nothing I can do about the Exchange account. It's they don't let you forward it, and I can't collect mail from other accounts there, so I have to maintain that separately.
How do you like it?
Hotmail or Exchange?
Hotmail.
I like it quite a bit. I mean, I've been using Gmail for years. I'm not, and honestly, I don't think people pay attention to this. They're very comparable these days. And the thing is, I use this account already because I've had it. By the way, my Hotmail account is literally from 2001. It's my Windows Live ID that I use for my Xbox. It's attached to my gamer tag. It is also the one I use for Zune Pass and for my Zune stuff. It's the account I used on Windows Phone. When you log on to Windows Phone for the first time, you log in with your Windows Live ID. That's the account. So all my stuff already goes through this. I just wasn't using it for email. So there are all different ways you can consolidate stuff, but I decided to consolidate my personal mail, my non-Penton work mail through that one account. So, yeah, it's great.
I haven't used Hotmail in a while. Maybe I should try it again.
Well, I mean, it's a weird thing. I don't mean to say, like, if you're in Gmail and it's working, I wouldn't go to the effort. I'm just saying I think a lot of people don't even give Hotmail that chance. And the truth is, I think it's just as good.
I'm surprised that they haven't rebranded it as like Bing Mail.
Yeah, you're not the first person to suggest that. And
I do have Hotmail. Wait a minute, I do.
Maybe someday they will.
Oh, look, I have Hotmail.
Yeah, this is an old conversation, but I mean, webmail used to be the joke.
Yeah,
webmail
nobody
was
wanted.
Like the version of AOL. Like, why would you ever want to be on webmail? Like, you wanted to get that into an application, But these webmail clients have advanced so much. I would never install an email application in Windows ever. I would just use the web. The web interface is great.
Yeah, I should try it out. But Paul, thank you. Thank you for hanging out and doing the show and covering CES, some of the stuff at CES with me. You can go to our website, guysfromqueens.com, to check out anything you miss. We're gonna have probably the show up within the next couple hours because there's not much to edit because this is the first show. since coming back. And you could also get it from Paul's site at Win Super Site. With that said, we'll see you all next week on What the Tech. Good night, everybody.